Thanks, Sally. Hello, my name is Amanda McCloat. I'm a home economist and president of St Angela's College in Sligo. And this is my daughter, Roisin, who has just turned 5 years of age. And together we love to bake and cook in the kitchen, don't we? And during isolation, it's a really good time as a family to do some work in the kitchen and to be able to have make your family meals or to bake together as well. It's a great way of actually alleviating some stress, but also getting involved and spending some quality time together. So today, as part of the GAA Future Leaders #GAA Solo Challenge, the challenge that we are setting you today is to bake some shortbread, men, women or all-stars, and we want you to decorate them in their county or club colours. What's our county colours, Roisin?
Black and white.
Black and white, very good. So what we're going to show you today, Roisin and I, are the ingredients and the method as to how to make those shortbread, men or women or little stars as well. So looking at the ingredients, first of all, we have 165 grams of plain flour, and it's really important that it's plain flour, not self-raising flour. We have 50 grams of caster sugar as well. And then we also have 100 grams of chilled Irish butter, so pure butter cut up into cubes as well. And we have 1 egg yolk, and make sure you keep the egg white for later because we will need that for the icing, to make the icing. And then we also have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and this will give a nice vanilla flavour to the shortbread. So we will be making shortbread, vanilla shortbread essentially. All of these ingredients, because of the government restrictions on travel for COVID-19, all of these ingredients are readily available in your local shop. If you cannot get vanilla extract, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to add it. You could add the rind of a lemon or the rind of an orange, or you can just omit it and leave it out and just use your flour, your sugar, your butter and your egg yolk. They are the basic ingredients to make your shortbread. So we're going to start first of all by sieving the flour. So the first thing is to sieve your flour. So we're going to put all our flour into the sieve. And Roisin, I'll get you to sieve that for me. So the reason that we sieve the flour is to introduce some air into the mixture and also to remove any lumps that may have occurred when the flour was sitting stagnant in the shop, in the pack in the shop as well. That's great, well done. So once our flour is fully sieved, we're going to add in our butter. So we're going to add our butter in next. Now it's important to keep the butter chilled because shortbread means a short texture. So when you break your shortbread, you want it to be a really nice crumbly buttery texture. So therefore you use pure butter, which is important. Margarine can be a little bit oily. And if you don't keep your butter in the fridge and you leave it out at room temperature and try to rub it into your flour, what will actually happen is you'll get very greasy biscuits, and we don't want greasy biscuits, sure we don't? So we want nice gingerbread men that are quite brittle and short to make. So the next thing that we're going to do is our rubbing in method, and this is where we're going to just rub it in with our fingertips and our thumbs. So our thumbs rub over our fingertips as Roisin is showing you, and we keep the palm of our hands nice and clean. Why do we use our fingertips? That's okay, why do we use our fingertips?
That's why it might get melt.
Excellent, she's right, it might melt the butter. So we use our fingertips because they're the coolest part. So we're going to rub in our fat just into our flour and raise it nice and high as well, because then that will also rub in the fat, but it will also add some air into it as well. So you're rubbing in your fat into your flour. So as you can see now, the mixture looks like fine breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to show this up to the screen just to show you. Okay, and just good girl. So you can see it's nice and short and it looks like fine breadcrumbs, okay? And that's what you're looking for, nice fine breadcrumbs. And there is a mess, but that's okay because sometimes it's fun to have a little bit of a mess in the kitchen too, isn't it, Roisin? Roisin's often creates lots of mess, but sometimes as a parent, when you're involving children in the kitchen, it's important just to oversee that as well. So once you have it nice and short, the next step is we're going to add in our sugar, okay? So we get our sugar and we just add it in. Okay, and that's all our sugar gone in, and we're going to give it just a quick stir. Great, well done. So the sugar is now mixed throughout the mixture, and you have your flour with your butter rubbed in and your sugar mixed throughout it. And the next stage then is we're going to add our vanilla extract into our egg yolk. Just mix that up. Great, and once that's done then we're going to make a well in the centre of our mixture. Pour the egg yolk in. Okay.
Mix it.
And then we're going to mix it. Very good, so you can mix it. So you can mix it with a knife initially to start to bring it together, but then afterwards we're going to use our hands after the knife. And I suppose at the start it may look like it's not going to actually come together, but don't be too concerned, because in the end it will. The egg yolk is enough to bind it together. Okay. And again, if you can work really quickly with this, because the quicker you work, the less likely you're going to actually melt the fat. And because again, you want it to be nice and short. So you can see it's starting to come together. Okay. You having fun? Now, do you want to help me mix it as well, good girl? Okay. Now, once this is brought together to a smooth dough,
you roll it.
We roll it. First of all, before we roll it, what are we going to do?
Get the cutters.
And before that, where do we place it? Put it on a
plate and put it into the fridge.
And why do we put it into the fridge?
So it has lots of rest.
Lots of rest. So in the end, it will look like a smooth dough just brought together, okay? And then once that's like that, then we're going to put it on a plate. So we put it on a plate and we're going to cover it with cling film. And where do we put it, Roisin, again?
In the fridge.
In the fridge. And the reason for putting it into the fridge?
They get lots of rest.
Yeah, lots of rest. So you want your dough to rest. The reason is that the dough, if you actually roll out the dough beforehand, it will stretch and it will shrink back again. And it also needs time for the butter to harden again, to have a really nice short crumb to it. So we're going to put this in the fridge for a minimum of half an hour, but if you can, even a little bit longer would be great. So a minimum of half an hour, and we'll be right back when it is chilled. Okay, so this has just come out of the fridge and it is nicely chilled as well, and we're going to take it off our plate and we're going to roll it. We're going to roll it out, so we are, okay? So first of all, it's really important just to lightly dust your board. So we're going to get some flour and we're going to dust the board. Don't put too much flour on the board, because if you do, it will actually alter the proportion of the flour in your dough, and you don't want that to happen, okay? That happens sometimes too, which is okay. So we're going to put a little bit of flour on our rolling pin as well, and then we're going to just flatten our dough. And when we're rolling, just roll in one direction only and turn your dough anti-clockwise as well. So roll in one direction and anti-clockwise. Would you like to roll it, Roisin? Good girl. Well done, great. And what we're looking for is about 5 millimeters thickness for your shortbread. So you can see it's rolling out really nicely there, and it's not tearing, but what's also very important is it is nicely chilled as well. And because it is nicely chilled, it means it's much easier to work with. The butter is hard, it's not soft as well. Okay, and then we're going to get our cutters. Now, for today we're going to use gingerbread cutters, but if you don't have them, a star cutter is absolutely fine, or a circle cutter will be fine also. And then what you also have, if you have neither of those, what you can do is maybe cut a template out in paper or draw a template in paper and use that then to cut around, but perhaps get some help if you need to use a very sharp knife as well. So place your cutter down on your dough. Good girl. Perfect. Great. And then we're just going to pop it through. Just wait for 1 minute, don't. And then we're going to get our flat baking tray, which has been lined. And the flat baking tray has been lined, again, not a deep one, just a flat baking tray. Any size will do. You may need one or you may need two of them. This one is about 10 inches by 17 inches, but again, it's absolutely fine, whatever size. We get our gingerbread men and we place them onto our flat baking tray and we roll out. So we might just roll out or cut out a star cutter as well, Roisin. Would you do that for me, please? Good girl. So just like Roisin showed you, when you press it down, you give it a little shake and then it pops up. Okay, and you can see the depth of the gingerbread there as well, or the shortbread rather, but you can see the depth of it. Okay, and you place it on a flat baking tray nice and gently. Well done. Okay, for the scraps you can bring them together again, but just avoid over rolling it too much as well. A little bit of flour and roll in one direction only, lift it and turn it anti-clockwise. Now, I'm going to use our gingerbread cutter again, Roisin. So as you can see what Roisin is doing, pressing it down, giving it a little twist just to make the clean cut, and then lifting it. Well done. And then very gently push it back out because you don't want your gingerbread to tear. Okay? Well done. Well done. Okay, so use the rest of the dough to cut out the stars or the shapes of the gingerbread men, and then you put them into a preheated oven at 160 degrees Celsius. Okay, so once they're in the oven for 160 degrees Celsius, leave them to cook for about 20 minutes or so until they're nice and brown around the edges. Make sure you don't overcook them. So what you're looking for, using your oven gloves, is that the edges, just around the edges, have nicely turned brown, but the rest of them are lovely pale colour still. Okay?
Can I smell them?
Yes, you can smell them. What do they smell like?
Biscuit.
Biscuits, very good. So these ones were ones I prepared earlier. So you get your flat and you just lay them nice and gently on a baking tray to cool. Okay. And one more. So just be cautious of this stage because once you take them out of the oven, they will be a little bit soft, okay? And it's only until they actually cool that they start to harden a little bit and become like that biscuit texture as well. So once this is done, then we're going to leave them to one side to cool. So lift this tray out of the way. So once they are nice and cool, you can see that they are a little bit golden around the edges. You can see the nice thickness of them, which is about 5 millimeters. And really importantly, they smell just like vanilla and they have a lovely short and sugar. And of course, as you can see, they smell really nice as well, don't they? And when you break them, what you're looking for is that they actually have a nice crisp. So I'm just going to break this one maybe and you can see nice crisp texture to them as well. And that means they're really good shortbread. So the next stage after we might eat one is that we're going to decorate them in your county or your club colours. And that's the basic recipe as to how you actually make them. And then we're going to show you how to decorate them. But before we do that, I just want to show you this resource which is available for free. It's a resource which is a recipe booklet, and all healthy clubs in the GAA would obtain copies of this, but also it's available on the Future Leaders website as well. And it's called Recipes for Success. And it basically is a whole list of recipes. So these are recipes that you can cook at home, and it was written by myself and my colleagues Elaine Mooney and Roisin Lydon, along with people in the GAA as well. And that's available for free to download. So we hope you have a lovely time making your shortbread. We certainly have had a lovely time showing you how to make them, and we will enjoy eating them, I think, now. What do you think, Roisin? I think definitely. So happy baking, everybody, and enjoy getting into the kitchen and having some fun during this unprecedented times. Bye.